We will return to our regularly scheduled program.
Please stand by for further details.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hello and welcome to episode number 9 of Tyler and Lynch on Standby. Special episode today. Mr. Sam Roberts is going to be joining us, the one and only talented musician. We're excited for that. But before we get into it, quick update. Still on standby.
Yep.
Still no word from Chad Kroger. We got a bit of a Chad Kroger update, but we're going to get into that in a later episode. There's been a little bit of an incident, but it's fine. First, I need to give a congratulations to Josh Vincent Jr., the official winner of Josh Fight. Did anyone hear about Josh Fight? Alexi, have you heard about Josh Fight?
No, I haven't.
This whole story started a year ago. This guy named Josh Swain went on Facebook and he created a group and he messaged everyone he could find named Josh. This like thousands of people named Josh. And the message was, "You're probably wondering why I've gathered you all here today." That was the opening message. To someone responded, "Because we all share the same name." And then he said, "Precisely. On April 24th, 2021 at 12 p.m., we meet at these coordinates." And then he gave GPS coordinates and said, "We fight. Whoever wins gets to keep the name. Everyone else has to change their name. You have a year to prepare. Good luck." That was a year ago. And then on April 24th, Josh Fight actually happened. All these people showed up in this park who were all named Josh. And they're all like dressed in like fake armor. And they had like pool noodles for swords. And like, they went at it. They battled and like
how many?
Hundreds of people named Josh showed up to this event. Like, listen to how loud it is.
Is that them fighting?
Yeah, this is a massive group of Joshes fighting for who gets to keep the name Josh. Yeah. And then it went on, and Little Josh became the winner. Little Josh was, he's 5 years old.
Okay.
And they crowned him the King Josh, and it was pretty adorable.
Little Josh, give him some space. Can I have a few words on your thoughts on the big win? Give him some space. I'm just making sure.
Hi, everyone, and now
Quiet down!
That guy.
He's 5, everybody!
That guy, I'm glad that guy yelled to quiet down, like, so you can hear Little Josh. Yeah, he's the loud Josh for sure. But also, like, what a hero, you know? Like, it's nice in this video, but I bet you that guy's so annoying in real life. Like, he's just right. He's one of those guys that's like 350 with the big beard that just like feels invincible. He's got that vibe. But either way,
you don't want to mess with that Josh.
Yeah. He quiets it down for Little Josh.
He's 5, everybody!
Oh, down to the ground! I now crown you the King Josh!
Yeah!
And they gave him a Burger King crown.
Nice.
Lift him up! Lift him up!
And then they lift him up.
Lift him up.
And they just have him up like the Lion King. Little Josh. So he's the only one that gets to keep the name. His dad who is also named Josh.
His dad's name Josh.
His dad's name is Josh.
So Josh and Josh Jr.
Yeah. Josh Vincent Jr. is the winner. And I love how much he just loves the name Josh.
He's actually 4.
4? Okay, my apologies.
I just wanted a junior.
That was why he named him.
I just wanted a junior.
Aw, it seems like a funny name to pass down.
Yeah, Josh.
You know?
Like you know, like Michael or like David. David the third makes sense. Josh.
Josh Jr.
Josh Jr. JJ.
So a 4-year-old wins this thing.
Yeah.
How? How does a 4-year-old
Impeccable
win?
skills. I don't know. A lot of Fortnite playing, probably.
Perhaps, maybe, yes.
Learned the technical skills needed to fight in a park with a bunch of other nerds.
Hey, not nerds, they're Joshes. They're a bunch of Joshes.
What would a bunch of Kyles, like imagine they had the Kyle fight?
Oh, God, that'd be sponsored by Monster Energy Drink.
Yeah, it would just be a monster truck rally.
Yeah.
Lots of shin kicks.
Yeah. The Tyler fight. The Tyler fight would just be like, is this a Kyle fight? Like,
we're not quite sure.
We're pretty close.
Is there a sign anywhere?
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is the Tyler fight. All right,
Tyler fight, Kyle, pretty similar. A Karen fight, it's just who can dial 911 the fastest. Like,
Rat other people out, complain.
So congratulations going out to Josh Vincent Jr. I just had to start the episode off with that. I was very excited
for him. That's good. Good for him.
A lot of hard work. And the whole event was a little like LARPing. You know what LARPing is? Live action role play.
Is that the one where they have like the fake swords and stuff too?
Yeah. They dress up like that. And that ties in perfectly to the episode because one of the biggest LARPing events in Canada happens in Montreal every Sunday, and I'm sure that'll come up with our guest today. We're pleased that he's joining us. The name of the new record, which by the way is out, it's called All of Us. You can grab it right now. The one and only Sam Roberts. Hello, Samuel. How are you today?
Hey guys, nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
I didn't know you were drinking. I know there's beer in that.
Yeah, just Lynch's. Just Lynch's. He's the one with the problem.
You should have told me. I would've joined you guys.
I like how your Zoom name is Samuel, full name.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was Samuel. Samuel feels so much more official.
Well, I've kind of entered that phase in my life where I want people to start taking me a little bit more seriously.
Right. So the flat brim hat helped.
Exactly. That's just to hide what's under the monstrosity underneath.
What's been going on, Lynch? First off, thank you for doing this. We appreciate you giving us some of your time.
Pleasure.
Lynch was saying that when he asked you, you seemed real bored. So for that reason, you seemed excited.
Today? I just got back from soccer practice, not my own, my son's. Okay. God forbid I should ever grace or disgrace a soccer pitch again. But no, I came from soccer practice, which was in a strange way. I don't know. It kind of feels like everything these days that resembles normalcy is a victory. So this was the first soccer practice, even though the kids were wearing masks, and I'm not sure how oxygen flow was going on there. The fact that they were there and it felt like a step in the right direction. So just come from that. And basically, to answer your question, it's a whole lot of that, just kind of flipping back and forth between whatever my work life is and my home life. But the two things have kind of just become one thing, whereas they used to be very, very sort of distinct in a way. You're out on tour, you're out on the road, then you come home, you put on your dad's shoes and you get on with that. And now it's all a blur. It's all one beast.
Are you coaching at all, or are you just soccer dad?
No, I'm a dad now. I was coaching briefly a couple of summers ago and was repeatedly reprimanded for my my tactics by the powers that be. So I've been relieved of my duties, but I'm waiting in the wings, man. I'm waiting for that coaching vacancy. And I'm going to step back in there because I got big plans, big plans.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how old is your son? How serious are you taking this soccer? How old is he?
He's 10 years old.
Okay.
And,
so pretty serious.
So you got fired from a 10-year-old soccer league.
Yeah, it's pretty serious. As we all know, that's how you have to treat amateur sports, with the utmost seriousness right from the beginning, So.
Well, at least we all know what it's like to get fired then. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, exactly. You guys are probably a little bit more used to it than I am, but I love how in radio you call that kind of moving around, but we all know it's kind of what's actually happening there. How many different cities are we talking now?
Man, well, this is my first time I've ever been canned.
No.
Yeah,
really?
For real.
Oh, I thought,
First time I ever got fired as well, but I'm significantly younger than both of you, so that's not
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, on to the next chapter, as we say in the music biz and show business.
Have you ever been fired from a legit job? When's the last time you had a real job?
That's a good question. First of all, I have some reservations about you not calling it a real job. I mean,
way to go, man. It's hard work touring and writing and doing all that stuff, interviews, everything.
Yeah, I was talking about gardening.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, there's that too. Yeah. No, I got fired a lot when I was in the sort of more traditional working world, for sure. Mainly because of the band, because you could never, I guess, stick to a regular schedule if you had to be going and playing, important things like playing for 3 people in Kingston that night. There's no way that my shift at the restaurant was still going to, happen. So yeah, we kind of, I bounced around between jobs a lot before the band actually started, moving in the right direction, for sure. And these days, I guess I wish I could fire myself sometimes from the.
Yeah, you're basically the CEO, eh?
That's a very grandiose term for what I do. Thank you, though. I love anything that legit. I think I've used that with my kids too. Because they're quite confused about the structural nature of my job, as am I, and anybody else associated with us. So sometimes you have to kind of throw in this, terminology like CEO and CFO and all that, and. I guess that's the truth in a way, but anyway, I think they're starting to come around that their dad actually works and tries to, hard to put a roof over their heads.
Did you pull that move too, saying, you do this, do your chores and stuff, because I provide the roof over your head and stuff?
I do that, yeah.
My dad used to throw that down all the time. That was like a daily staple.
Somebody sent out a thing around the band the other day. It was a sort of 10 most used dad expressions. Things like I don't know.
I'm going to turn this car around.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or driving and seeing traffic on the other side of the highway and saying things like, I'm glad we're not going that way. It's like you have to say it for some reason, and I scored like a 9 out of 10, and not because I'm trying, but legitimate. It's just like you become rewired to say these things all of a sudden. And my favorite one is when you're cinching something down on the top of a car and then you pat it and you're like, that's not going anywhere.
Or when you're barbecuing, you get the tongs and you have to click it.
Exactly.
You have to double click it.
It's one of those things that's just kind of taken over my mind.
Do your kids think what you do is cool, or do they think you're not cool?
I think they did at the beginning, but they're thinking it's less and less cool as our music becomes less and less popular. So it's directly proportional to how, where we fit in the grand musical hierarchy. And I managed to convince them that we were pretty high up there at the beginning, but now their own sort of detective minds have debunked that myth and know that when the other kids in their grade 4 class don't listen to our music, it means that we're not who we have claimed to be all this time,
You should have put out Baby Shark. What were you doing?
Oh man, a lot of regrets.
They're probably asking them now, like, "Hey, you going to do a collab with like Justin Bieber?" Or
yeah, they do say that, because I think it did hold sway for a little bit, but now they realize that we're not batting in the same league as the Shawn Mendes's and Justin Bieber's of the world. And then I've got to sort of heap on this whole other argument that no, what we're doing is more meaningful, it's more profound, and only history will judge our true contribution. And once you start dabbling in that kind of language, you've lost it with your kids for sure.
Speaking of your kids, pets. You have any pets running around right now?
I do. I have a dog, and I'm sure he'll make some kind of appearance. His name is Milo. He's a 10-month-old border collie / Labrador, and has destroyed. Our backyard looks like a battlefield. I've never seen anything quite like it. But this is our first spring with the dog, and he's just completely ravaged the place. I'm hoping that you guys get at least some of the truth. Right now it's kind of quiet, but I'm hoping that at least some of the household sounds creep into this session today, so you get a taste of it.
I would love one of your kids to run downstairs or wherever you're at right now and start yelling.
Oh, it's going to happen. I already hear some banging on the kitchen floor upstairs, and that's usually, it's kind of like a volcano. It starts with a few little rumbles, but it'll erupt at some point.
And I wanted to ask you about Nick and Sally. I don't know if they're still around, your pets.
No, they're gone. Thanks for bringing up that.
Way to go, Lynch.
Yeah.
God.
Wow.
You want to explain who Nick and Sally
were? Two dwarf frogs. Who we had for a number of years. Nick ate Sally, though.
What?
Yeah.
How do you explain that to the kids?
I don't know. It was just, it was a rough time for sure. And then, but he grew to unusually large size for a tiny frog from having devoured his partner. And then, he lived for a long time, a lot longer than we thought. And, but eventually he succumbed. He succumbed to his unusual largeness, and that was it. So, but thanks for bringing that up. That was a chapter that I kind of tried to put out of my mind.
This is really cool, Lynch.
Was that one of those
dead pets?
ceremonies that you had to have in the backyard? I remember having one of those when I was young.
Yeah, we did the toilet flush. We went
okay.
We went pretty standard on it. So
it's an amphibian. That's where it belongs.
Exactly. We returned Nick to the sea.
I had a question for you about Montreal. Like, we've been in talks with different, as radio is, as you described, we could end up having to move again and go to a different city. And we've been both pretty mobile our entire adult life. Whereas it seems like you made a clear choice to stay where you grew up. Why? Is it just a love for the city? Was it, I'm sure there's opportunities where you could have moved to the States or to another city in Canada even, but you chose to stay where you grew up. Why?
I mean, I do love it here. So I'll say the sort of more, I guess the obvious answer is that, I think if you've ever visited Montreal, there's something special about the place. There's something definitely, I think, specifically being a musician first and foremost, that it's kind of seen as I don't want to say a noble pursuit, but it's accepted. And I think in a lot of ways, musicians are always looking for those places where, not just musicians, but artists in general, looking for a place where you're encouraged to, and what you're seen is, what you do is seen as being of value, sort of making a valid contribution. And I think a lot of musicians and artists wrestle with that as they try to get their feet underneath them. It's not that you need the validation, but you do need the support. You do need to be able to, again, work a job where it's okay to say, hey, you know what, can I switch shifts here because I've got a gig in Cornwall? I'm just going to keep, every time I mention a gig, by the way, I'm going to mention a different town in Ontario for each.
Perfect.
Hey, sounds good.
Yeah, we've done Kingston and Cornwall so far, but and Montreal is very much like that. It's sort of ingrained in the fabric of the city that artists are important. And so, there's that. Then there's the other things that you just don't, they're more on the intangible side. I don't know how it feels to wake up here every day and walk the streets. And it's a very vibrant place. I feel like I get a lot of energy from it too, still, even after all these years. And then you bring having a family into it, and your motivations change, and, the schools and all these sort of more pragmatic life decisions kind of creep into it. But I've definitely been curious about what it would be like to call some other place home over the years, especially because we have been traveling so much. And you go to, should I mention a place in Ontario? Can we branch out from there right now? Going out to Vancouver for the first time, or being in a place like that, and the thought of waking up and seeing the ocean every day and seeing mountains every day. I've definitely been tempted by a lot of different places, but for whatever reason, Montreal it's great to visit all these places, but Montreal always just feels like home. And but who knows where the future will. I've always got like big plans for the future. Not that there's ever like a post musician phase, because it's just something that you do until you die. But I definitely like to go and spend more time in different places.
Because you got to do something pretty cool, like with the Olympics out here, did you not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we played 6 shows at different venues around the Olympics in 2010, anywhere from sort of downtown Vancouver to up in Whistler. We were out in Surrey and Burnaby as well. So we really got to get our feet wet. And I think Vancouver specifically has just been a big, almost like a home away from home in a lot of ways. We've either made records out there and therefore spent months, living in apartments there, or mixed records, or spend a lot of time performing there. So I think it's one of the places for sure that's kind of crept into my mind, sort of I think a lot to do with the natural beauty there and just how lucky it feels to wake up in a place like that every day.
For financial reasons, we're probably going to be looking for roommates. So
okay, well, I come with a heap of baggage, guys.
That's okay, man.
One thing I always find interesting with anyone, an artist, is what's something that's a passion of yours that has nothing to do with music? Like, I feel like finding passions that aren't your art is also important and probably plays into the art as well. What's something that you love that isn't music?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, I think it's a good question. And I think you're right in that all these other things in your life serve the music in a way. And sometimes it's in unforeseen ways. And again, I joke about gardening, but I actually really love gardening. I find gardening and making music go hand in hand. And
is it because you whistle while you work or what?
I do, and it's one of those things where I don't want to paint myself as too much of a sort of, suburbanite fuddy-duddy right now. It's kind of I'm looking out going, is my grass growing, after the dog devastation? But, there's that. I retired from beer league hockey about a year ago.
That's a big move.
I stepped back. I don't want to say it's a permanent retirement. It could be a false retirement, but that was, they kept moving our time slot up. It used to be at 6:30 and was great, but now it's like at 11:30 and you come home and you got to drink 6 beers just to like bring your heart rate back down, and you're up till 4 o'clock in the morning on a school night, and it just wasn't working anymore. So I had to take a step back from that, but that's another one. I spent a lot of time hiking around Montreal, like in the mountains to the north. And so we do have mountains here. They used to be huge, the mountains, like about 200 or 300 million years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say during the Ice Age.
Yeah, pre Ice Age.
Pre-Ice Age.
Yeah, pre like multiple ice ages ago, they were huge. But I spent a lot of time out there. And then, to your point, for me, it's all about doing something that has a sort of repetitive, almost sort of, cyclical motion. Like walking in the woods helps me write songs because I can go through an idea. If I'm sitting here and, this is a room that I record in and play music in, but if I spend too much time in here, the thoughts get stuck, and it's really hard to focus enough on one idea for long enough to kind of break it loose. Whereas if you're walking around or gardening, you can go through that idea because you're sort of also doing something else at the same time until that idea starts to sort of, again, become unstuck. So all these other things do have play a really important role in maybe not sparking the idea for a song, but definitely bringing a song closer to a conclusion of some kind.
I was reading, I forget what the name of the book, and I wish I could remember it, but they were talking about the idea of like an analog versus digital desk for people who work in like creative spaces. And the whole idea is that like physically moving, like for example, if we were prepping a radio show, like actually using a newspaper and like clipping out the article and just like that kind of like mindless movement actually helps create ideas a little faster. So I totally get what you're saying, especially with gardening. I love gardening.
What do you garden, by the way?
86 tomatoes from my tomato plant last year. I was so pumped.
That's amazing. No, I've got a thing going on with the squirrels here. So my yields are very, like, you'll have that one prize tomato, and then squirrels don't like tomatoes, but they will take a probing bite, an exploratory nibble, and then ruining the tomato forever. So yeah, I mean, I've got tomatoes, chili peppers, which are I'm usually pretty successful with those, but the carrots are like that big. And I've been doing this for years now. Like if I had to feed my family, we wouldn't live through a summer. But I try. I got a lot of heart when it comes to the gardening, but I'm also trying to grow gardens for bees, pollinator friendly gardens, just anything that keeps me outside in the summertime. And of course, on a normal year, we go and tour, and then my garden is just kind of left to the ravages of whatever, critters are around and neglect, and then I come back and it's like, it's gone completely wild. But
is that why you keep looking out the window? Are you that guy?
I keep looking out the window. I know.
You keep looking out the window and make sure the damn squirrels aren't kicking around?
I've got multiple problems like to my right going on. One of them is going to be the dog tearing shit up, and then the other thing is going to be the squirrels having a field day with whatever it is that I've just put in the ground out there. So yeah, and I've got birds eating the grass seed that I just put down. So it's like it's an assault from all sides, man.
I think you need to dome it. I think you should put a dome over the whole backyard.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past me at this point because this is war. And
you
then
need to start training the dog, man.
I know, but he's clueless. He's 9 months old right now. I've got the dog it's going to be a lifelong project for sure with this one.
I mean, the real killer in your household was Nick, and unfortunately Nick went around for defense.
Nick the assassin, Nick the cannibal. No, but there's this really nice old Italian gentleman up the street who like comes down and checks out the garden for me and gives me pointers. And his place is like it's like the Garden of Eden, He's got crates of tomatoes and his broccoli is just in abundance. And then mine's all this like shriveled up sort of nutrientless, decrepit, whatever. So anyway.
There's an Italian word. I'm going to have to Google this right now. When you're like walking through a city and you see a construction site and there's usually an older man standing watching the construction guys work with his hands behind their back. Did you know that there's actually a word for that person in Italian?
I did not, but I really want to hear it.
Behind your back, construction.
So is it a guy who actually works on the site, or is it just a guy in the neighborhood?
It's just an old guy. You never see that? Like they're like digging out a water main or whatever, and then there's just an old guy who just like stands and watches. And then if anyone in the crew gives him like any time of day, he then gives his recommendations on how they should be doing it. You know what I mean?
Should be digging right over here, actually.
There's a word for it. Umarel.
Oh, really?
From Wikipedia is a folk term referring specifically to the men of retirement age who pass the time watching construction sites, especially roadwork, stereotypically with their hands clasped behind their back, offering unwanted advice. So you have a gardening Umarel.
I have a gardening Umarel. I won't say that to him because I'm assuming it's a bit would an Umarel take that as offensive, or is it a birthright?
I think it's a birthright. I don't think it's offensive.
Right. I think yes. I've been here long enough. I've put in my time, and now I'm a proud card waving Umarel.
Right.
And
and they're judging.
100%.
Every time he takes a look at your garden,
for
he's
sure.
just
And this is such an exaggerated swing between his garden and my garden that I could never put up any kind of defense for like what I'm doing or what my techniques are. It's just like I can only bow down to his superiority, So
I bet you if you reached out to him next time he kind of comes over and says, "Hey, you want to give me a hand?" He'd be more than happy to help you out. He's probably just doing that just for you to ask him.
You're right. But because of COVID restrictions, we're going to have to keep distance for now. But I think next summer, I might bring him into the fold because, it's embarrassing. I'm glad that there's no footage right now. Again, see, I look there. I'm so conscious about it. I keep like looking over my right shoulder. It's always on my mind.
The restrictions there. You guys still under the 8 p.m. curfew thing? My brother lives in Montreal as well, and obviously we don't talk that much, or else I would know specifically if the curfew is over or not. But is it done now, or are you still on the 8 p.m. thing?
No, still on the 8 p.m. thing, but I don't notice it at all. Like I've gotten to that point where we haven't been out in a couple of years. I don't think past 8 o'clock. So
see, that's the thing with our age, Sam, is like I'm okay with it. Things shut down at 10 o'clock. Perfect. I can go home and sleep.
And it's the best excuse ever not to, can't come out tonight, guys. Gotta, so you just sit home and get to bed nice and early so you can get up and hit the garden early in the morning, and but no, it's been pretty, it's been, I guess, everybody's going through their own thing. regardless of what part of the country you live in or what part of the world you live in. But certainly in Montreal, we've been a hotspot, if not the hotspot, for a good part of the last year. And I don't know, it's amazing to see, for all the, to your earlier question, some of the things that make Montreal Montreal. We haven't had any of that, whether it be the sort of the life on the sidewalks or the restaurants or the never-ending nightlife, and those are the things that have been eerily absent for quite some time now. So, but to that point, it's amazing to see how people can adapt. Even Montrealers who are, it's sort of, again, culturally ingrained to live a certain way, have become, for the most part, these law-abiding, I guess, respectful of all these, the purpose behind all of this. And in its own way, it's worked. It's kept the situation. It's never been great, but it's kept it sort of from exploding into, I think if you let all those instincts that exist in people here run wild, this could have been a really bad situation. But I think people have kind of rallied to the cause, and that's been good.
I find the city of Montreal just so friendly. And the bars being open till 3:30? 3?
Do they close? I'm not sure if they.
Yeah. I don't even know what time it was. But last time I was there was Osheaga. Osheaga.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Just like I was there. My brother's younger than I am, and we get along great, but he went to bed early, and I was like, I'm going out. And I just went out by myself, and I met so many friends around at every bar I went. I thought everyone was so nice. And you're totally right about like the nightlife just being so vibrant, and the bars being open helps, but I think a lot of it's just the people. Like, it seems like a very social place. It
is. I mean, the whole the idea of joie de vivre here is on another level altogether, and to see that not happening, I think it's sad to see that in Montreal specifically. Of course, you can roll that into any city though, and I think everybody's living in a state of deprivation. I was going to say depravity. That would be the wrong word, but that's just Lynch.
Yeah.
It's definitely a big part of the soul of Montreal that's been switched off for the time being.
I think it's a cold weather climate thing too. And like, I'm not the first person to have this idea, but places where it gets real cold and snowy in the winter, whether it be like our time in Calgary or growing up in Ontario, a little less cold, but there's something about like hunkering down in the winter in a pub that is just more of a thing in a city where you get so much snow. Like there's not much else to do. You can't really be outside. So let's all just go sit at this pub and hang out. And I think it really changes the like way people socialize. Like it's less like that here. And sometimes people are like, oh, Vancouver could be a little rude or snotty or whatever. And I'm like, I think it's just like, they have their group of friends from growing up. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, so they never moved away. And when you have 10 friends, like you don't need more than 10 friends, whereas in those cold climate places, you end up socializing just because you need to be inside with people.
I think you're right, and people are always stunned to learn that people, that Montrealers on January the 16th are out, it's minus 25 degrees and, getting all dolled up to go and, out for a night on the town. But it's kind of part of, I don't know, it's like the challenge of winter has been accepted and refuse to let it slow us down in any way. And then of course you have the spring explosion here is quite unlike anywhere else that I've ever seen. I've never been to, I'm trying to think, maybe, places in Siberia have that same kind of spring awakening, that we have here, but it's pretty unbelievable, the energy in the city from sort of the late March until June, as it literally comes to life again. It's remarkable. So if you ever have a chance, come to, exactly. I was going to say Winnipeg for sure. Saskatoon spring fever. There's nothing
Get the
quite
hell
like
outside.
it.
Let's do something.
That's it.
Patios are open. It's -10. Perfect.
Some dude's out there in his shorts for sure. It's like 1 degree and laid out with his flip flops and shorts on, and
He's got a mini magic glove in one hand just to hold the beer.
It's almost like just to prove a point at that.
One of the most fascinating parts about the city to me was that I can't remember the name of the park, but it's a big drum circle every Sunday.
Yeah, that's on Mount Royal, but yeah, right underneath the statue.
Went to check that out, and it was very cool. But also, they were LARPing in the woods around there. Do you know what LARPing is?
Yeah,
like live action role play. Like, I just went to this thing, and there's just all these guys dressed up like knights and like just dragons, and they all got like foam swords, and they're all fighting each other. It's pretty amazing. Do you LARP on the side, Sam?
It's phenomenal. I was tempted to get into it because it looks like so much fun, and I've always had this Lord of the Rings obsession. So I thought, this was a way to sort of, maybe live some of that out. But yeah, when you see that, the preparation for the battle on a Sunday, it's really, because the tam-tams are one thing, classic drum circle vibes, and a lot of hippies and a lot of like people smoking weed and getting deep into the the cosmic rhythms. And then you've got the rain dancers and the whole thing, and it's it's quite something. But if that's not your thing, because it's not for everyone, it's nice to have the alternative of a full medieval battlefield only a couple of 100 meters away to really change gears. And you see people walking down the streets, and they've got like these foam and duct tape swords, and they've leather tunic and sort of homemade chainmail. And you might have a wizard, and then so they basically pit the two teams together. I've never seen how they decide who's on what team. Or like, it's kind of like, is it like a soccer game where you like, we can't have all this, the crazy,
maybe it's like on one team.
Maybe it's like a hockey game where they put out all the swords in the middle, and somebody just grabs them and starts throwing them aside. Because there's 7-year-old kids there fighting against like 55-year-old, men, and it's a pretty intense. And you have archers, and then inevitably there's a guy who looks like he's got a squash game right after, and he's full of testosterone, shaved head, hairy arms and legs, and then squash goggles on. Doesn't look at all like, didn't get the medieval message at all. He's just super jacked up and aggro, and he's got like twin battle axes, and he just comes out like full rage, and he'll like hack into a young unsuspecting 7-year-old archer, and
they just got it.
That sounds fun, man.
Oh, it's great. It's great, man. So, you guys with your beers there, and you just sit there and, watch, maybe jump in on the action if you're feeling it. But
that's all I did. We grabbed a bottle of wine, and I sat and just watched them LARP for probably like an hour and a half. It was exciting to watch. And you could drink at the parks there. God.
Yeah. Well, you've seen the best of Montreal. It's clear. So,
the LARPing.
The best part.
Yeah. Thanks for spreading the word. The tourists are going to come flocking back to the city now.
When this is all done, man, it's going to be LARP Central.
Yeah. We'll do the commentary for it. I would love to do commentary for LARPing. That sounds like a great new job for us.
Honestly, like if you did that, I think you might have hit on a magic formula.
We talk a lot about like intense commentary on this show because, like, I don't know if you ever seen like bowling or darts commentary, like two pretty slow sports, but the commentary is so over the top. It's amazing. LARPing could be we'll start a YouTube channel.
And you know what? TSN right now, they're lacking on things to air, so that could be like TSN 5.
I
think
so.
At this point, TSN 3.
Guys, grab it while you can before somebody else snatches this from underneath you, man. Like, get into it.
I got one more question for you before we got to let you go here. And this came in from a friend. I told I've been listening to your music for a long time. And I guess I should probably say off the top, I am a fan of yours.
Thank you.
Just throw it in now.
Thanks.
But I told a buddy of mine that we grew up listening to you, that I was getting to chat with you today. And he was like, can you ask him if he ever wears sneakers or if he only wears boots? Because he seems like a boots guy. No. So I need to know, is sneakers or always boots?
I'm a sneakers guy.
Oh,
I'm a sneakers guy.
I figured with your fashion, you were a boot guy. You seem sophisticated.
No, I will wear a boot. I will wear a boot around for sure. But on stage, I always wear sneakers because I can't wear boots on stage. They get caught on the pedals and I trip over my feet and they just feel clunky, and I want to feel sort of light and maneuverable. The other guys in the band wear boots on stage. Around town, it depends, what I'm doing, but I'd say I'm a 50-50 on the boots and the sneakers right now. So it's kind of hard. I kind of feel a little bit more self-conscious these days about the fact that so much of what I do is walking kids to school and gardening and like, all these things that we mentioned, walking the dog, to throw the leather. Once in a while, I'll do it just to prove a point and put the leather jacket on and the boots on to do one of these like sort of daily menial tasks kind of thing.
To be the cool dad at drop off.
Just to be, but you can't pull that off every day because then that's a huge responsibility, It's a huge weight to carry. So more often than not, you just sort of default to sneakers and whatever. So I kind of feel, I don't want to say it, I don't want to go public with it, but I feel like the boots days are slipping behind,
It's a bold statement. Boots are out, according to Sam Roberts.
So much is changing, guys. You guys have unearthed all this stuff. You've caught me on a vulnerable Sunday morning, Like we should have talked on Friday night when I was raring to go, man. I was like, I've got this like pensive Sunday morning thing going on. So
I got one more question for you, Sam. What's some advice that you should have taken but you never did?
Oh,
that's a good question.
Yeah, that's...
Where was that when we had a job?
I know. Oh, man. I think one of the things that really defined, and I think you guys having worked in music can relate to this, but when we were getting started in the early 2000s, the idea of selling out was a huge... It was like this, you'd been branded with something. And I felt like for a long time, we all lived in abject fear of that idea of being a sellout in music. And what that ended up doing for a number of years, I'd say all through the 1990s, especially, it was just, everything had to be this like super tight line. You couldn't move out of your lane kind of thing. And I feel like that really set us back, not just us, but a lot of bands, at a time where we should have just been like blowing the doors open and trying different things. And instead we just sort of, if you did one thing and you were known for that, then God forbid you were a sellout and tried to do this or tried to do that, or, and I feel like that's completely counter to how I see creativity in a healthy way these days. And I think we spend a number of years kind of trying to break out of that, the fact that we felt like we had to just sort of adhere to this one definition of who we were. And it took albums and years and tours to kind of help to get rid of some of the damage I think that does.
Now, was that because was that a you thing, or was that like a music label thing?
I think it wasn't the label. I think it was a culture wide thing in terms of music back then. It was everybody just walked in fear of being branded a sellout, and you get sellout for anything. You be a sellout for having your song on a TV commercial. We actually said, to think of that now, this car company wants to put your song, and we're like, we've said yes before the sentence is even over at this point, But back then I was like, no, I can't do that. can't do this, can't do that. You end up turning down a lot of opportunities that could have, I don't know, reshaped things, so to speak. But more than that, it's just sort of allowing yourself to be defined by the fear of being called out for something, you know. And I think that we kind of grew up in that culture music-wise, and I think finally feeling like we've fought back enough to have shaped our own version or definition of who we are, you know.
It's crazy how much fear influences like every aspect of your life. You know, like I feel like the bulk of life is just conquering fears. And you need fear. Like being scared is a good thing. You know, it's a defense mechanism for a reason. But something as simple as that, like it was a fear that you couldn't overcome until later in your career. And if you would have overcome it earlier, you could have been in 9 Nissan commercials.
Exactly. You know, the dream, just the dream. You're so right though. You know, I think and it's weird that all this fear, it's not fear of a leopard coming out of the, you know, like legitimate fear of being hauled up a tree and eaten by a wild animal, you know. Right. This is, it's all driven by our interaction, our relationship with our fellow human beings, you know, and so much of it exists not as a sort of physical reality. It exists, you know, in your own mind, and how much time we spend preoccupied with those things and how much energy we spend trying to overcome that. And, you know, that's something that as you get older, thankfully, I feel like it eases off. But man, when you're getting started, you're just so worried about what everybody thinks of you, that I think if there's one thing that you can kind of go back and relive, it's just, man, I wish I could live with all those years and just without that preoccupation. And obviously you can't, but you can sort of learn from it going forward and say, you know, all right, I'm going to be me from now on.
I feel like Gen Z, who gets made, the TikTok generation gets made fun of a lot, but I feel like they're breaking down a lot of this stuff. Like I just watch, like specifically like the sellout thing. Like you look at what music is becoming in some of these new artists and you're like, what? There's no genre here. Like they'll blur every line. They don't care like at all. And I think a lot of it is just growing up, like constantly putting themselves out there, which obviously has some negative consequences, but also in that sense of like being who they are. I don't know. They seem pretty sure of themselves from younger ages now. And I wonder if it's just constantly putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that you guys, you know, us all I'll lump you in with me, and with it coming from the same sort of generation in the same place. I don't know how much you guys wrestle with that, but I certainly wrestle with it a lot. I don't feel like it comes naturally. I mean, getting up on stage and performing is one thing. And that's, you know, I feel at home doing that, and I feel very much myself doing that. I feel it, and I know that's vital to putting on a good show, is that you are yourself up on the stage. But when it comes to all these other things, you know, I mean, social media is the blanket term, but within that, the requirements to put yourself out there, and I think, again, you've hit the nail on the head when you said the ease with which young people do it. It's an unconscious thing.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it's very conscious, and the fact that I'm conscious of it makes it inauthentic and makes it, you know, it's sort of, it's less valid that way. And I don't know if I'm ever going to feel at ease with that. I don't know if it's ever going to be something that I can do, you know, and say, yeah, this is really me coming through here. So I kind of envy that in young people. I envy that, and I worry about it too, because like anything, you know, I've got young kids, and once you've opened that door, that world has an insatiable appetite. It always craves something else. And you know, I guess I'm in a way fortunate or unfortunate enough to just be say, I've got nothing else to say. Sorry, I'm going to check out for 6 weeks. I'll come back to you if I have a brainwave at some point. But I think there's this enormous amount of pressure to feed that beast for young people. So when it's good, it's good. And when it's not, then I think it's a source of a lot of stress and anxiety. And it's tough to watch for sure. And it's tough to keep at bay once it's started.
It just, it made me think of, you and your family put out the video at like the beginning of the pandemic, covering we're all in this together. That had to be a moment. Like, and maybe if this is too personal, feel free to pass. But like, how did your kids handle that? Like, I couldn't imagine getting that much views and like being on the news, and we were playing it on our station. I mean, it was across the country. Everyone was watching this video and listening. That must have been mind-boggling for your children to be a part of. Like, you're kind of used to it, but for them, like, what is that experience?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a lot of life lessons packed into one sort of moment. And I've kind of gone out of my way since my kids were born to not ever have them in photos and, you know, whatever limelight, you know, I don't want to over exaggerate the kind of limelight that I live in, because I don't think it's certainly not that, but you know, it's there. It exists in some way in our lives, and always tried hard to keep it relegated to a safe distance. And this was the first time where I sort of consciously said, all right, let's all do something, and we're going to put it out there, and we're going to, you know, use whatever avenues are at our disposal to sort of, you know, bring this to light and to public attention. And of course, for 15 minutes, it was a thing. And then afterwards, the real lesson was like, and now it's gone, and now it's gone. And it's like, what do you do? How do you deal with it? So all the intense scrutiny that, again, it lasted a very relatively short period of time. And of course was vastly overshadowed by all the other massive monumental events going on in the world. And I think they probably liked the attention a bit at school and that, but as with all things, the world moves on, and it's, what have you done for me lately? And well, we just don't have a follow-up. So now it's
soccer practice. Here we go.
That's it. Back of the thing, you know, and nobody's talking about it anymore. So that's probably the more poignant life lesson that's come out of all this.
Right. And just for anyone listening or watching that doesn't know what we're talking about, you and the family got together and just put out a cover at the beginning of the pandemic, which you can watch. It's fantastic. You're probably the least talented in the family.
I am, yeah. That's official, and don't worry, they never hesitate to let me know.
Dad, come on, keep beat.
Exactly.
Just go to your tomatoes. We don't need you here.
There's squirrels in the garden again.
No, what people will never know is that was take 287. You know. And that my face after take 230 was really, really red from, you know, trying to keep the band together. And then we had to wait so my face became less red. So we got into the high 280s, you know. But anyway.
Well, we got to let you go here. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
And it's nice to see you both, and good luck with this, the new chapter here.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we can catch up over a LARP soon.
Man, anytime. Like, if you want to do, but the thing is, I think if we're going to do it, it has to be serious. Like, you can't go there, and everybody's made fun of it before. But I think if you really put yourself, you know, in the mind of a LARP fighter and like try to explore the subtleties and, you know, the fear, the anticipation of battle and all that. And, you know, I think there's an audience for that. So.
Well, that'll be as soon as we're allowed to travel, we're flying there to film this.
Okay, guys.
And I can't wait to sit down and have a beer with you once again and not invite Tyler. So
I know, Tyler, you know, next time, Tyler, I'll give you a call on the side and we'll make sure that you're, we'll leak the location, you know?
Cool. Yeah. I'll just already be in there. So, hey
exactly.
guys,
how did you get here? Wow, that's so weird. Tyler's here. Wow. Anyway, well,
all
you
right,
guys
man.
take
Well,
care.
Thank you so much.
All right, say hey to everyone on the West Coast.
Will do.
Everyone. I mean, literally everyone, and we'll talk
individually masked up.
I'm vaccinated now, so I can go and do that.
Yeah.
So
same here. Yeah,
right here, brother.
Yeah.
God, to be old.
I know. It was like the
Still
only
waiting.
good thing. It was the best thing that's happened to me post 45. So, all right, guys, be good.
All right,
you too, my friend.
Talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye. There we have it. The one and only Sam Roberts. We got real
what a gem.
Deep at the end there. It's nice to have a real conversation. I feel like I forgot what those are like. Just spending all this time with Lynch is always nonsense. Big thank you to Jim Bob John for the original music. A big thank you to Jessica Wong for all the graphics. Of course, a big thank you to Comedy Here Often Podcast Network. Check out some of their other shows and 604 Studios and producer Alexi for being here and doing all the tech stuff as always, because I may be younger than Lynch, but I am dumb at the internet. So, and as always, if you could like, rate, review, subscribe. If you got a Sam Roberts fan in your life, send them the episode so they can hear his wonderful wisdom. And thank you so much for
Don't
hanging
forget
out.
to email us too.
Oh yeah, tylerlynch@gmail.com. And Chad Kroger. Yeah, feel like it might happen.
Hopefully.
Yeah, we'll explain that in the next episode. There's Chad Kroger. We'll see you soon.